we've got the Bulls and the Raptors going at it on Wednesday night for this play-in tournament game in the Eastern Conference. Who do you think is going to win and why?
I'm torn with this one because I think that these teams match up very well. Now, listen when I say this, right? Both teams are very similar. They were a game apart in terms of where they landed in the standings. They both have athletic, decent players because when you talk about Toronto, you talk about Pascal Siakam, one of the better two-way players in the league. We talk about Chicago. You have DeMar DeRozan, one of the best mid-range shooters, one of the best scorers in the league when he gets it going. You got Zach LaVine, you got OG Anunoby, you got Scotty Barnes. You got to rotate between who's going to guard who. I think that Toronto can match up very well with those two players on the Chicago side. It is going to be pivotal for players like Nikola Vucevic. When you talk about Alex Caruso, Patrick Beverly, oh my God, I'm going to forget this guy. 44 for the Bulls.
Patrick
Oh my God,
Williams.
Patrick Williams is going to have to step up. Thank you very much. It's going to be definitively the supporting cast that's going to have to catapult Chicago into this win because, again, OG and Barnes, well, not OG, excuse me, not Scotty. Scotty's not the greatest defender, but when you talk about who's going to guard who, you got to have Pascal obviously guarding DeMar DeRozan, and then you're going to have OG guarding Zach LaVine, and then if you rotate between those two players, then that leaves somebody to have to go out there and, guard Fred VanVleet and so on and so forth. But if Scotty Barnes can find a way to get it going as well for Toronto, if Pascal Siakam can take advantage of the height mismatch on his matchup, if Jacob Potto can get into the paint and provide some good presence as well on the defensive side, I think that this can go either way. I myself am going to pick Chicago because I like Zach LaVine. I like what Patrick Beverly has brought this team since they acquired him in the buyout market. Chicago has been one of the better teams over the last 10 games. They're 6-4, but you can also make the argument that Toronto was also 6-4 to close out the year also. I'm going with the underdog here. Again, just because I like Patrick Beverly. I like the grit. I like the hustle that he's provided. He was kind of like a little energizer bunny for what Chicago needed to get into the play-in. And when you talk about what Alex Caruso brings to the table on the defensive side as well as in the transition game, I really, really think that they could make some noise. Fred VanVleet, we all know and love. He can go out there and give you 20, 25 points, 8 to 10 assists. He's just very streaky. Scotty Barnes has games where he disappears. And, OG Anunoby isn't exactly known for his defense, for his offense. So if he starts off cold, it's all going to fall on Pascal and Fred. I just think that Chicago has a lot more options on their side. And with the dynamic scoring combination of DeMar and Zach, it's going to be a very close game, but I'm going to lead with the Bulls.
Yeah, Kev, I'm split on this one too. I could really see this game going either way in favor of the Bulls or the Raptors. I'm going to side with you, and I'm going to go with the Bulls. I think it just comes down to when I look at the setup when it comes to the rosters between the Bulls and the Raptors. I'm going to side a little bit more with the experience with DeMar DeRozan over someone like Fred VanVleet with the Raptors. Simply just because I think when it comes to these playoff moments, or I guess this really isn't a playoff moment, this is a play-in tournament game. I favor DeMar to be able to knock down those mid-range shots more effectively, even though that everybody and their mother knows that DeMar is just this mid-range killer. The pace that he plays at, I think when it comes to this play-in tournament game, I think it's going to suit his style. And if Toronto can't match their defensive intensity to what he's putting out, I think that the Raptors can have a real difficult time slowing him down. And Kev, it's like you said to me, like when it comes to just the players that we're going to see featured in this game, you look at Chicago, obviously, DeMar DeRozan's at the top of the list simply just because of what I outlined in him just hitting that mid-range jump shot like it's nothing. You got Alex Caruso, obviously brings a huge defensive element to Chicago, but he could also drop you 10 to 15 points. He can knock down some big timely shots when Chicago needs it. On top of that, you've got your grit player in Patrick Beverly. He's definitely going to be somebody that is not going to get you a lot of points, but he's going to be somebody that just annoys the opposing team offensively. He's going to get up in your grill, and he's going to make things literally a living nightmare for that opposing team. And it's really good for Chicago to have someone like that on their roster. It's really just, you hate to go up against a player like that because they just bring a level of grittiness and feistiness. And Patrick Beverley does that to a T as far as I see that. But, I do think when it comes to the Raptors, I think the Raptors have some opportunities to be able to get some timely shots against Chicago. Chicago's defense, they can give up points in big chunks. And I think they're going to need someone like Pascal Siakam to really pop off, probably get some around 20, 25 points. Scotty Barnes has a very good chance to do some big numbers. Granted, he's young. I think he's 21. He's relatively young. He has the potential to get 25, 30 points if he knocks down his shots consistently. OG Anunoby is always something they have to focus on. And then, what is Jacob Hurdle going to do for you down low? These are the elements that we're going to have to focus on in this game. And as far as I see it, when I look at these one-on-one battles where, you focus on Chicago and Toronto here, I think more times than not, I'd have to favor Chicago a little bit more. I'm not saying this game is going to be a runaway for Chicago. I think Chicago is going to do enough to get by and potentially win this game by, honestly, like 3 to 5 points. This is not going to be a runaway as far as I see it. And I think it's really just that DeMar DeRozan element that I don't think that Toronto's going to be able to hold up against. I think Toronto's going to have a difficult time slowing him down. I wouldn't be surprised if, DeMar hits one of those game icing shots where, Chicago's up 2 and there's only 30 seconds left and they run the clock down to about 5 or 6 seconds. I wouldn't be surprised if DeMar would be that guy to knock down that timely shot that would get Chicago a win on the road, mind you, to potentially play for their playoff lives, depending on who would lose that Hawks and Heat game that takes place on Tuesday. So overall, for me, it's a very close game as far as I see it with these two going at it. But I'm going to favor the Bulls slightly in this one in about a 3 to 5 point win.